Okay, we'll move on to our featured presenter. Harvey Vengroff is a self-made multimillionaire who moved to Southwest Florida roughly 25 years ago. His entrepreneurial journey began when he founded one of the largest collection agencies in 1963. Mr. Vengroff is also a real estate genius who is passionate and dedicated to affording affordable housing for the workforce. Please give Mr. Vengroff a warm welcome to the Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to kind of follow up with some of the questions that I've heard and the answers I've heard, because it's really not true that I'm a good businessman. I was just, well, first I'm married, happily married for 53 years to 4 wonderful women. Okay. I think I have an advantage over most of the folks in the room because I didn't do well in school, and I guess I didn't do well in school because I wasn't a very good student and I didn't give a damn. So when I got to college, nobody in my family had ever gone to college, so I didn't know that you had to pay for it. And then when I got there and they asked for a check, I got off the line and went to the dean's office and got him a contract. I got myself a contract to clean the school using all of the people in the dorms as part-time work, which worked out really good. So I had a contract to clean the Long Island University, which was a pretty good contract in 1958. And then I got cocky and I got the Chrysler Building because I had a reference, and I also got LaGuardia Airport as a client. So by the end of my freshman year, I was doing really well. And then this was in New York, and then there was these folks called the Union, and that kind of killed my business. But I did have enough money left over to finish college. And then when I went out to California to go to law school, I started a janitorial supply business. And the janitorial supply business was modest at best. But I had about $30,000 that was owed to me by companies for cleaners, brushes, paper, whatever. And that was all the money in the world to me at that time. So I typed up a nice list of the 7 or 8 companies that owed me money. And then I brought it over to Dun & Bradstreet to collect it. And I gave them a nice type list. This is $30,000. I need it. And I came back about 10 days later, and they hadn't collected my money. They said they sent everybody a letter, but that really wasn't going to work. So I put the dog in the truck. We walked into offices with the dog barking and drooling, and told people that they had to pay or the dog was going to bite them. And it worked really well. So I decided to go in the collection business. I went down the street with a legal pad and got the names and addresses of local businesses or people that owed local businesses money, and went out, collected it. Sometimes it was a lot of fun. Sometimes, I mean, you're in a business that you can poke people and punch somebody in the mouth and turn them upside down, take whatever falls out of their pocket, give them a receipt for it, and you made money. It was a wonderful business. I got this client called Penn Phillips, who had a land contract for about 1,000 homes in Chula Vista. These are mostly Mexican land contracts. They were lease to own kind of thing. But these guys at Penn Phillips were all 3-piece suit guys from Harvard and Yale, and they weren't going to go there and collect the rents. So finding people is sometimes a difficult thing. So I thought the logical place to find employees for my collection agency was a work release program with the jail. And I got a lot of big guys that were pretty smart, pretty tough, and I went down to Penn Phillips properties with a fellow by the name of Gene Barr. Gene was 7th ranked heavyweight at one time, and First guy got out knocked on the door on Gene's side. Gene dropped them, and everybody paid. We got 1,000. We got 1,000 tenants to pay their rent on time for the next 9 years, which financed my business. So I thought that was pretty cool. And we did things that I've been in about 60 businesses over the years. But the thing that we did, we always did things in an unconventional way because I never had the education that would allow me to do it in a conventional way. So when First Union Bank about 30 years ago gave me an account for $1 million against an electrician in South Carolina, they asked me they said the guy's a nice guy, but his partners ran out on him and he owes us $1 million. So I took a trip up to South Carolina, said hi to this guy, and he had an office that was about the size of this table with 2 little desks and 2 trucks outside that weren't working. And he said, I can't pay $1 million. So I said, oh, okay, give me half your business. And he said, I'll give you the whole damn business. I said, I only want half because I'm not an electrician. So he said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, we'll go to sleep and come back in the morning, we'll have breakfast, and we'll decide what we can do to make this business successful. And I had no clue as to what to do. But I thought about what's the largest account or largest kind of customer that an electrician could get. So in the morning, we're having eggs and bacon. And I said, okay, I got an answer for you. And he said, what? I said, we're going to build a nuclear power plant. So we built a nuclear power plant at Fort Bragg. We built one at University of Virginia. And we also built one at Fort Campbell. And the guy was able to pay his $1 million back, buy me out of his business, and it was really cool. So, it's really simple to do things sometimes, and we sometimes look for a hard answer, like we're going to work our way through it, and and I heard you say education was a really important thing to you, but for me, I bribed my daughter to quit school when she was going to college. I told her I would buy her a convertible if she quit, and she did. So the collection business has always been good for us, but we have always done things that were different. I mean, we ultimately managed about $33 billion in receivables for companies all over the world, so that made us kind of a big guy with very small profit. But we did a very large business. And the things that we did were the things that nobody else would do, and that's part of what was said here before. We would repossess planes from behind the Iron Curtain countries. We would take boats, including super tankers, and repossess those things. The worst thing we ever did, I don't know if anybody knows what a linotype machine is, but a linotype machine is probably about as big as this room, and they used to print newspapers with it. And Mercantile Linotype asked us to repossess a linotype machine from a company that was actually using it. So we bribed everybody, including the guards, at night. We unbolted everything. We got a crane. We picked this thing up. We put it on an 18-wheeler. Next morning, we bring it over to Linotype. And they said, geez, we never thought you'd be able to get this thing. But then they looked at it and said, it's got the wrong serial number. So we brought it back, broke into the building the next night, took the right one. So, life has been cool. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. And then, getting into the real estate business was kind of an accident. I guess when I was younger, I made a lot of money, and a lot of these guys that work for me from the work release program were really smart guys. I had 3 of the former 10 most wanted in California working for me at one time. And they're really sharp guys. I mean, they taught me a lot, now, you know. But we were able to do a lot of things that other people weren't able to do. The only thing we weren't able to do is keep our money, because we had no idea what accounting was. We had no idea of bookkeeping or anything else. And, you know, come Friday, we were waiting for the next deal. So I decided that if I wanted to be a millionaire, I'd have to have $20,000, $50,000 houses that we'd rent, right? I mean, everybody knows that 20 times 50 is $1 million, right? So these people are going to pay the rent, and I'd be a millionaire, and that was great. I started in New York with that, and first house I had was a 3-bedroom, a 3-family house I bought for $55,000. And I was worried about all the things that new people in real estate are worried about, like you know, plumbing and electric and evictions. And you know, you can't do evictions in New York very easily, not like in Florida. And this guy owed me, he was going on his 2nd month of rent, and I needed the money. So I called the cop, and I asked, when the car came, I asked him to stay in the street, and he didn't know why, but he did stay there. I went in the building, put the guy over my shoulder, dropped him on the street in front of the police car, and the guy got up and hit me. So I had him arrested for assault. And that was my first eviction. But getting on to things currently, you're looking at me funny. You know, it seemed to me that we've gone through 3 or 4 or every 10 years there's a study on the North Trail and what should be done, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out that a 1950s or 60s or 70s hotel, motel, can't compete with the new stuff. I mean, you've got to deal with prostitution and drugs in order to make a living, and there's just too many old hotels in order for the world to survive on the North Trail. So I figured if I bought 1/3 of the hotels, I would take that off the market, or 1/3 of the rooms off the market. The other guys could maybe make a living, and I could turn these into studio apartments. And the idea was okay, and it seems like it works. If you took a typical hotel, again, I'm not really good with money or with planning, so because I didn't go to school. But if you took a typical hotel of 120 rooms, and you paid $20,000 a room for it, so you'd be in there for a little over $2 million, right? So you buy this thing for $2 million. Now, who's got $2 million in their pocket? Very, very few people, right? But the guy that owns the hotel can't sell it, so he gives you a first mortgage for 2 years. So you haven't put anything into this thing. You act like a hero, but you haven't put up any money, right? So you're buying this $2 million hotel. The guy's giving you $2 million worth of credit because he's holding the mortgage. You go to a bank, and the bank finances the improvements that you need, maybe another $500,000. So you've got zero money in the project. And then you do an appraisal, so you've got $2,700,000 into the project so far, not your own money. And then you get an appraisal, and the bank appraises it at $5.4 million. So they give you $3 million, you pay everybody off, you own the place, and it throws off about $70,000 or $80,000 a month in income. So, you know, guys, you don't have to be smart. I mean, you got no investment, and you've got an income of $70,000 or $80,000 a month. Now, that seemed like a good plan. Anybody have any problem with that plan? So, I mean, that's basically what we do, and we take we run the hotels differently than most other landlords. In the past, the charities that we have in Sarasota, Manatee County, would take a family that was homeless, put them in a hotel, pay $1,500 a month, and after 6 or 7 months, they stop paying the rent and they throw them out. So it really didn't accomplish anything. It only was like a place for them to stay. So we charge $600 a month. We include water, electric, and cable, and they're furnished. And we put a family in there, and then if at 8 o'clock in the morning the door doesn't open, our manager goes over and knocks on the door and finds out why they're not going to work. If they say they don't have a job, we put them in the car and take them to a place where there's a help wanted sign. If they're not willing to get a job, they're out. If they're willing to get a job, it's great. And a lot of these people that are down and out over the years have been very successful. Over the last 25 years, we've taken these people, some of them coming from the Salvation Army or living in a tent or living in a car, and 19 of them have become millionaires. Okay? Now, that's 2 of them lost it and they're getting it back now, but 19 millionaires out of people that had 0. And we run our properties different than a charity does in that we enforce things. We make them a gated community. We have 2 guys there that used to be in jail. We own the bail bonds place in front of the Manatee Jail, and and these guys are kind of kings of their blocks. They know the street. They know who's doing what. So we don't allow any drugs. We don't allow any prostitution, and we don't allow the bad guys to come in. If the bad guys want to come in, we have this sandbag drill that we put a 100-pound sandbag, and we have these guys practice tossing it back over the fence. So when the bad guys come over the fence, they go back out that way. So it's a tough love situation. We have things like free health services. So we have doctors and nurses actually volunteer their time once a month to come into our properties once a month and do blood tests and anything else that people need. It's a free service, and hopefully that will get people going. We also have mentors, so that we try to get a mentor for those people that want a mentor that will be able to help them either get a job, dress for a job, or start a business. And in many cases, we've funded the business for a person that wanted to. And we take half of it. We fund it, but we take half the business, so we do make a good deal on that. Does that make sense, guys? Or okay, I don't have a lot to say.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions? Okay.
When was the last time you did a deal on a hotel, like you just explained, where the mortgage was held by the owner or by the bank, et cetera, and then you fix it up, and then you got a new appraisal, et cetera? When was the last time you did a deal like that?
We did 4,900. That's the Oak Ridge Apartments. We did that last year. That was the example that I gave you. It's 120 units. We bought it. The owner financed it. The bank financed the difference on it, and then it was appraised at 5.4. The last deal we did, we just signed the contract on the Knights Inn in Manatee County. That one is $4.4 million, and same kind of thing. The bank financed 75% of it. The owner financed 25% of it with a second mortgage. So yeah, it happens.
Before my question, you probably have to have the financial net worth and statement to be able to accomplish that. But with the rules that they have in the banking institutions anymore, they know what a prior sales price is. They know about the flipping and whatnot. So not anybody can do that. Is that a correct statement?
No, I don't think that is true. I've got a group of investors now, because I've got an expiration date, so I figured we might as well continue this program because I think it's a good program. And I've got a group of investors that are doing this now. They are well-heeled, but my son Travis is actually running it for them. And so we put in, let's say each guy puts in $100,000, and it's really just money for show. The rest of it comes out from bank. It's not real investment.
So now my question. You sound like a walking liability for a very liberal attorney to go after you for what is unconventional in the way of collecting rent, in the way of collecting money that is past due. Have you been sued? Have you been and survived it? Clearly you've survived it if you have been, but any issues on that front?
Well, if somebody wants to file suit against me, I just tell them where the line starts. But we had a case against one of my employees, who I guess it was a sexual harassment case where a guy was suing us for his manager, who was a female, and I went to the attorney's office with her and him, and he said he wanted $50,000 to suit, and I told him I can have him killed for $5,000, and I walked out. I never heard from him again.
I don't think you remember me. We talked at length about 5 years ago. I had a radio show called the Entrepreneurs Show, and we talked for maybe 40 minutes or so. So the stories are coming back, especially the dog and the pickup truck and all that. That was great. One of the things that I thought was really interesting when we chatted 4 or 5 years ago was how you transferred the large company to your kids. Maybe you could talk about that. One of the comments you made, if I recall correctly, is, I really wasn't interested. My kids are doing a better job. Maybe you could talk about it. Maybe I got that wrong. I'm not sure. But in any case, you transferred the officers and the ownership and the management of your company. Thank you.
Well, that's true. We did. Each of the 5 kids own 15% of the collection agency, and which is really our asset. And Bob Williams owns 20%, and I own 5%. But we sold it to him years ago for a very small amount of money, and with a note, of course. And they got to own the company tax-free, basically. But a more interesting story is about 3 years ago, we sold our European operation to a company called Capgemini, a French company. And they paid $34 million for our 7 offices in Europe. And they had a funny way of, they wouldn't listen to the way we did it. We have a salesman call on customers. They thought they had the customers and they paid for them, so therefore they weren't going to have a salesman. Well, the 2-year non-compete went up, and now we have all of that business. So it was kind of a waste of $34 million on their part. Did I answer your question? Well, they actually do a better job. I mean, I have a very short attention span, and the world is changing, and some of the things that I might do, they temper a little bit, and maybe use better judgment.
I've got a question for you. It's along the lines of North Trail hotels, changing them into some other apartment type of complex.
Yeah.
Do you see a good market for veterans, either the income coming from veterans administrations, or just the need for veterans, many of whom are on the borderline of homeless, having trouble reintegrating in? And do you see that as a marketplace, and have you done anything in there?
Well, we use a 60-40 rule. 40% of our tenants are charity cases. They come from one of the charities. 60% are just people that if there's a divorce and the wife and kids stay in the house and the guy's got to find a place to live, he's got a cheap place to live. If a lady gets beat up by her boyfriend and we have to have a place for her to live that's safe, she moves in, and the fence and the two guys that we have patrolling the area keep the bad guy out. And then we get them jobs. But the vets amount to about half of our charity cases, and we try to work with them in getting them either employed or starting businesses. The problem that we've had with the vets over the last several years is some of them are just not stable. So if somebody's playing the radio loud next door, he just as soon get a gun and go over next door. And we've had to stop a lot of that stuff and talk people down. But so it's not a clean business, But we do work with a lot of vets, and I think that's a real important part of our population.
Mr. Vengroff, it looks like you're having most success in Manatee County as opposed to Sarasota County in terms of dealing with regulation and compliance and trying to get things through. Is this going to make you eventually move your business out of Sarasota and work with people that want to work with you, or?
Well, the business, the collection agency is all over the world. So no, we'll stay in Sarasota. As far as doing business in Manatee County or Jacksonville or Orlando, it's much easier to do business in those places because while the community recognizes the need for affordable housing in Sarasota, they recognize the need, but they're not doing anything to accommodate it. Whereas in Manatee County, they recognize the need and they do solve the problem if you tell them how to solve the problem. In Manatee County, we have 1,800 students, kids going to grade school, that don't have an address. 1,800 students in grade school that do not have an address. They're either living in tents or they're living in cars. So if we can accommodate 25% of that, that's a big deal.
I have a question.
Sure.
Obviously, you've been very successful.
Moderately.
You probably don't need to do this business. Why are you doing this business?
Well, it's kind of fun to help people. I mean, it really is. I mean, you get to see people that. One of the things that we do is we teach people to dream, and many of the people that we have on the low end of the housing cycle have never dreamed or can't dream or can't even think about what they might want to do. And if we can work with those people and allow them to become part of society and see them get into a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house, it's a really nice thing, and they're grateful.
Well, what can you say about your project down off of Fruitville, where your headquarters were? Is there anything happening there or with the Sarasota?
Well, Sarasota is trying to stifle it, yes.
Yeah, I get it.
Yep. Question.
What you said earlier resonates with me about closing the door, basically, if the individual's not willing to go out and get a job, that they're not going to be welcome in your facility. What would be your solution to the homeless issue that we have in the downtown area, with the exception of those folks that have mental health issues?
Well, the folks that have mental health issues or are on drugs or just addicts of some sort, we can't help those people. We just don't help them. We don't try to. We're not qualified to. The other people, many of them, we put a roof over their head, and they're pretty happy people.
Let me rephrase it. Let me say you're mayor for the year. Okay, what are you going to do to help get the homeless people out of those business areas that look like a little bit of a blight? What can we do to create a better city and to help those folks?
Well, we own the building at 650 Central, where most of the homeless people congregate there by the Salvation Army, and we found a lot of people trying to sleep on the second-story balcony, and we eased them down from the balcony to the ground, and 1 or 2 times, and nobody comes back. It was really pretty effective.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Not to beat a dead horse to death. Speaking of the homeless and those that you can help, would it not be wise for the city or the county to do the same thing that you're doing?
Well, we offered to create a program for them. I talked to Doug Logan. I said I would do it for them, and we would even provide the money to do it for them, but they had to ease the requirements in order to do it. In order to take a hotel in Sarasota and convert it to studio apartments, you have to have an arborist, you have to do a traffic study, you have to have sprinkler systems, you have to change the electric, you have to change the plumbing, even if it's good. You have to change the whole thing. And some of the things that they have just don't make any sense. They also have to do a study for the Department of Education. Now, how do you do a study for the Department of Education when you don't even know who your tenant is? How do you do those things? And then they said, well, you have to do a traffic study, but only 60% of our population do not have cars. I mean, only 40% have cars. It's $3,800 a year to own a car, and most of these folks take the bus or a bicycle. So, the city is not willing. When you say the city, the commissioners have to be willing to change the rules in order for it to be viable.
Yes, I guess for a lot of successful business people, there is something that drove them to do what they did from an early age. Was there something that was driving you to do what you've done?
No, I've never gone to work. I've always enjoyed what I did. It was always fun. It's a hobby.
Would you say business is a hobby?
Yeah, I'd say business is a hobby, sure. Yeah,
In other words, you should enjoy what you do.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Making money is fun, correct?
Yeah, making money is fun. I mean, it's a scorecard, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of kind of hairy eyeballs when you were talking about how you handled tenants and evictions and easing people down. That was a long time ago?
Not today.
Not today. How do you run a business like that and keep up with the PC crowd?
Well, when we bought the building at 4900 North Tamiami Trail, the police came and wanted the code to the gate. And I said, no, you can't have the code to the gate because I don't want you driving your cars through, our property. And they said, well, we have to because these are all poor people and you're going to have a lot of problems. And I said, well, do you drive your car through the Ritz parking lot? And they said, no. So I said, well, if you don't drive through the Ritz, why would you drive through mine? It will take care of our problems, and if we have a problem, we'll call you. We don't have to call them.
I like that. Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
That's very good. What would you say you're helping people, but what other than putting a roof over their head, what are you really helping them with?
Well, we're getting them jobs. We're giving them a feeling of self-worth. We've had, to give you an example, we've had 6 months ago, we had a young lady come into our place with 2 little girls, and she wanted to sell one of her little girls because she couldn't feed her. All right. Now,
She couldn't feed her. Hold the mic more in a direction like that.
okay. Well, we had a young lady with 2 little girls come to the office and wanted to sell one of her little girls because she couldn't feed her. She had no money, and she had no place to live. And she was basically almost in a fetal position. I mean, she was a beat-up woman. mentally at least. And after we put her into an apartment, a studio apartment with the two little girls, and fed them and got them, what they need, I'd say it was 2 months later, she really was a bitch. But the transformation of that person from being, just so docile to, to being an outgoing bitch was nice to see. I mean, as long as I don't have to be married to her. But there is a transformation. I mean, we're able to change people's lives in a positive way many, many times. I mean, there's certainly those that we can't help and don't help, and we have to throw them out. But if we're only successful a third of the time, we're helping a lot of people. We have 1,500 apartments in Sarasota. So, 1,500 apartments, and you figure there's maybe 3 or 4 in a family. So, we've got, maybe a couple thousand people that we're helping.
Yeah. One last question.
How did you help those people that you said there are 19 millionaires that came from you? How did you help them? Or did they have the ideas themselves? And one other thing, how do you help someone that has $1 million ideas that have been giving, always wanted to give to people everything that they have, their time, their products, everything for free to try to help, but now people want to buy them? How do you help them succeed?
Well, we have, I belong to a group called WPO, which is World Presidents Organization. And I guess you go into YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization first, and the requirements are that you have to have a business that grosses, I don't know, $40 million or something. And then you have to have a minimum of 70 employees. So a lot of these guys, now that they're retiring, are willing to help other people. Now, when you say help, I don't mean take money out of their pocket and give it to them, but help them in whatever they're trying to accomplish. And, well, you guys know China Smith, the boxer? Okay. Yeah. Okay, China's got a mentor. We provided a mentor for China. And it looks like he maybe will be successful in business. He's taking some courses in business management and learning how to do things other than fight. He may or may not make it. I don't know, but he's a nice guy. And there are people that didn't necessarily have any particular skills, but they were smart, and they decided that they might like to do something that made sense. And we've got a plastics business. We've got a business that makes semi-permeable mats for that the water goes through. We've got a business that brings in bongs from China. We've got a business that helps people with their debt solutions, or credit cards. You've seen those on television, where we settle people's debts. For about a third, we settle their credit cards. So it could be any kind of business.
Will you be around for a while to answer more questions?
I don't think there's more questions.
There might be one-to-one, but we got to wrap this up. Give Harvey a big hand clap for being here. Thank you.
It's on? Yes. I want you to show Harvey how we end the meetings. Okay. Give me a good one, okay? Yes, the answer is always yes!
Can I get one of your cards? Sure.